This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Dungeon that Weird Al Yankovic keeps us chained in. We bring you the Nerdy Manroom Show with your hosts, Hassel and Monster.
Hey, it's another wonderful day here. At least it's not raining. Well, it was raining in my neck of the woods, but it quit a little while ago. But I hear you have a ton of rain and thunderstorms and tornado warnings and everything else. So,
as they say in the woods, we're in the tornado watch. So, yeah.
We'll try to make this make it around through this pretty fairly easily and quickly though for everybody. And we'll go ahead and announce now. We've got the news and everything like normal. Not a ton of news. Not a whole lot of stuff that just reached out and grabbed our attention. As we said before, we're going to change our news to the things that are really special to us or that pop out or we get excited about. And then any other news stuff you can find it on a lot of our social media pages and stuff. But last few days, there just hasn't been a ton of brand new stuff that's come out, but we do have a little bit to talk about. And then we have a very special interview that we'll announce. You want to announce it now or you want to wait till we get closer to it?
And spill the beans, boss. Let's do it.
Yeah. So we had Mr. August Aguilar from Strange Film Studios, producer, writer, director, every other job under the sun for that for the film company there. And not just films. He's also been putting out comics and stuff we found out as well today. So a lot there from him, and we'll get into that interview. We pre-recorded it before this, so at a certain point we'll drop that in and let you check that out. But for now, why don't we start out with the normal stuff, and we'll thank our sponsors first. We wouldn't be here without them. So the Zone Collectibles store located in Tifton, Georgia. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at the Zone Collectibles. Visit them for all your nerdy needs, from whether it's Legos, comics, toys, trading cards, or more, and help them support the local artist community through their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And with that, Hassel, why don't we jump straight into the news? Because I know you're worried about that weather there and it might knock you out at any minute. So, yeah, I know how it gets there. So let's jump straight into that. And opening day, baseball kicked off.
Man,
finally.
Man, this Thursday at 8:08 on ESPN, the reigning, defending, undisputed world champion Atlanta Braves will kick the living shit out of the Reds, and I'm excited. I'm going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings in Tifton, drinking, enjoying the game, and having a great time. So, man, I'm pretty pumped.
Home game for that one?
You know what? I am not sure. I would imagine. With us being the defending world champions in opening day, it's almost a given. But
I actually haven't looked. I don't. Which they play a ton of games anyway. But I know my child has tickets to a Reds game because being on the honor roll on the president's list at school, and then they gave all those kids. They gave all those kids their choice of 2 or 3 different games to get tickets to, and he chose one. I don't remember which one he got, but he and his mom are going. I will be out of town for work, but Mother-Son Day. For that.
Well, hopefully he can go to when they face the Braves and he can go out there and throw a tomahawk chop from his Georgia roots.
That child will do everything he can to stay off of every film they can spot him. But after that, so WrestleMania weekend, or huge wrestling weekend all across the board. I don't think we were going to review the entire WrestleMania or the entire weekend, but any big takeaways you had from the weekend? I mean, there was a ton of stuff. Undertaker going to Hall of Fame, Steiner's going in, Ring of Honor Supercard show, which basically wiped out everybody who worked for Ring of Honor and replaced them with AEW's lower card. So
you had Samoa Joe return.
No,
we had Samoa Joe return though. I mean, Jay Lethal wins the world title. Samoa Joe shows back up and basically lays ground. Hey, I'm gonna fuck you up pretty much.
But how long?
Which Joe's gonna be on? Well, Joe's already gonna be on AEW tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, everybody who's now in a lead position in Ring of Honor is the same people that's going to be on AEW. So
To
how
me,
is that?
if he wants this to work, and they've already done put the picture out there, Samoa Joe is all elite.
Right.
Okay, if you want this to truly work, Tony Khan needs to keep these guys separated. He needs a full-on roster for Ring of Honor, a full-on roster for AEW. I mean, your best tag team from AEW, I don't give a any shit what anyone says, is FTR, and they're your Ring of Honor champions. Okay, well, if you're not going to shine them in AEW, keep them in Ring of Honor where they can really do something. Keep these guys separated. Then once a year, if All In is your Starrcade or WrestleMania,
Yeah, then you
have a Super Bowl then. Give us what WWE should have done when they bought WCW. Learn from their mistakes. Don't have Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, but I don't see it going that way at the moment, and maybe they'll change their mind the further we get into it. But from what I saw this weekend, and I didn't get to watch a lot of it, but I just saw that, we knew the Briscoes were out because the people that own the studio, TBS, TNT, they hate the Briscoes. They don't want them on their TV. So they weren't going to make it to AEW.
No, they're almost as unpredictable as Scott Steiner with a live mic. So, I mean, they're kind of
they weren't going to make it, but you wiped out them. You wiped out several other people that were there that are probably not going to be on there anymore. So this is not developmental. This is just another show for your AEW crew.
Well, if you're going to take all that, I mean, Tony Khan has a ton of talent. I mean, it's been for a long time said they've got, 20 pounds of shit in a 10-pound bag. So, okay, if this is the case, that's fine. Keep them separate. If you're going to take all these talents that were on these YouTube shows like Dark and what was the other one? I mean, they had, two different
I don't know. They've got like
shows.
5 YouTube shows.
Yeah, so, I mean, take these talents, spread the developmental out, spread your top talent out, and create 2 good rosters. I mean, Tony Khan, you're hiring every damn body under the sun. Hire me to book for you, and you're good.
Let's just take somebody, for example, their world champion right now, Paige. He'd be great in Ring of Honor if you gave him other people. He's not a main eventer right now in AEW because while
They
he's
don't
the
feature
champion,
him.
they don't feature him. It's all about CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, all these other people that, okay, they are your main eventers. You need to take him and drop him on Ring of Honor, and he can be the main event over there. He's not going to be on AEW. He's not a good world champion right now because of that.
That's the biggest problem they're having with all this talent. They literally, you get to a certain point where you don't see a talent for 2 or 3 weeks. Hangman Page is the world champion. The world champion, he needs to be on each and every telecast you have. He'll miss 2 weeks and then show up like he showed up this past week in a car. And nothing wrong, it was a cool segment. He just shows up in a car with some Longhorns, gets out, kicks the shit out of somebody, and that's it. I mean, it's an impromptu run-in is what you had your world champion doing. He cut no promo. He had no match. You're world champion. Could you imagine SmackDown without Roman Reigns?
No, I mean, that's
You're not watching.
That's the difference between the 2 shows, right? AEW's got a ton of talent that they don't know what to do with. WWE has no main event talent, and they're trying to give them everything to do about 1 or 2 people, and that's all they feature. But since I brought them up, let's jump over to them. What big takeaways did you really get or take from WrestleMania?
Okay, I'm not a fan of 2 nights. I will say that. I know a lot of people are.
I'm not either. It was too much.
It is. It was very much too much because if you look at both nights, it was extremely lackluster until a certain point when they kick it into overdrive with the last 2 to 3 matches. Both nights were this way. Sunday, I remember thinking Sunday is like, holy shit, they peaked on Saturday with Cody Rhodes' debut. And then finally, after Pat McAfee's match, it stole Sunday night to me. I didn't expect it to be what it was. Stone Cold returns again, and it makes it just, I enjoyed it from top to bottom. I didn't think I would. It surprised me.
Yeah.
And then, Roman and Brock delivered. We knew they would. And they went with the finish that I was hoping they would do because it's just smart booking.
So I think the win there was the finish they were going to go with all along, but that match was actually supposed to be a lot longer. I don't know how much of it you've seen, but there's section of the match where Roman's acting like his arms pulled out of socket from the Kimura lock or whatever, right? It's come out since then. There's a lot of pictures, and even WWE, while they haven't fully said it, his shoulder was out of socket. There was pictures of it where his shoulder, you could see the separation. It's like that. I've seen separated shoulders before from doing physical rehab and personal training. I'm like, ooh, that's out of socket for sure.
Well, he had no action last night. He just come out and done a promo, and actually I dozed off in the middle of the promo and woke back up towards the end. And I think that's all he's going to do this coming Thursday is another celebration.
I'm sure it is, because if he truly separated that shoulder, and I swear it looked like he did. I mean, it could all be a word, but it really looked like it was. If he did that that's what 4 to 6 weeks of no activity with that arm to get it back to 100% at minimum.
Well, okay. Here's the thing: how do you book that? I would hate to see a 500+ day reign as champion. This man hadn't been pinned since 2019. I would hate to see him stripped of the title over an injury. At this point, I mean, they've done abolished you got to defend the title every 30 days anyways.
Yeah. Well,
stretch it out. Make it be like, hey, there's no one worth my time right now. When you get someone worth my time, I'll come back. And until then, I'm going to just be here.
Or you just set it up and let him, even if he doesn't wrestle, let him get in there like he's going to, and then let the Usos, cause a disqualification or whatever, because he's still going to keep the belt. And they've done that multiple times. Let them beat up their opponent or whatever.
They have got next level. They have almost ascended like Roman. It's getting crazy. Like I watched their promo last night on Raw, where they were boosting up Austin Theory, and I hate Austin Theory. He's not the good kind of heat to me. He is the change the fucking channel kind of heat. But they hype him up, and they have me like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like they're like just dogging him. They kind of pull like what I used to pull on you guys in high school, that old Loki type heat. It's like, oh man. Are you really gonna do that right there, man?
Yeah,
they're so great. I loved it.
That I took away. I didn't understand why when they had 2 nights though, why they had so many of the higher caliber matches booked for night 1. Because I was sitting there thinking, okay, so you got Roman and Brock on night 2, you got Stone Cold on night 1, going against Kevin Owens, and we didn't know it was going to be a full match, but yeah, he gave us a full match, which. Lackluster or not on some of his performance. Some of the stuff he took, I was like, wow.
He took.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Bumps in 20 years.
And he took them like a champ.
He took several on the ramp. He took a concrete suplex, or gave a concrete suplex, but you're still taking the bump, regardless.
Yeah. I mean,
he took several ramp bumps. I mean, he trusted Kevin Owens, and I don't think they could have put him with a better talent other than possibly CM Punk, And that's the only sad part about this is, how much cooler this been if we got him and CM Punk, back when they hyped it during the video game 5-6 years ago.
But some of the other matches of the night, I don't think Ronda and Charlotte was decent, but it was a higher caliber one you could put it on tonight. But why did you put both women's titles on one night? Because Bianca and Becky was actually a really good match. You could have popped that one into night 2 and spread those out a little bit, and you'd have had a little more interest throughout the whole show. Because night 2 was so terribly boring. The first match, I'll give the tag team match wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. But after that, I was like, I am bored until we got to Pat McAfee. I was like, I'm almost ready to turn the damn channel.
I honestly would have thought that one of the 2 nights that one of the women's championship matches would have main evented, just because of they've done such an effort to make this a thing, But they had them both on the same night, and it was like, wow, really? And Becky and the EST, like you said, that would wind up being a great match. Charlotte and Ronda was a little. I mean, I could live with or without it. That's why it really grabbed my ass when I seen Ric Flair on Twitter a little while later going, "It was the greatest women's match of all time."
Yeah, it was.
No, Rick, it's not. Every match your daughter is in, it's not the greatest match of all time. I'm sorry, and I highly respect the Nature Boy because he's a huge hero of mine, but his views of late are awful.
Yeah, that and Ronda and Charlotte was supposed to be the night 1 main event originally. Then they got the Steve Austin stuff, and how would they have followed that, right? No matter how poor that would have been, or match comparison wise, no matter how much either one was against the other, they're not following Stone Cold actually delivering a can of whoop ass.
Just the interest alone when that glass drops, he walks out here and he's got the crowd in the palm of his hand. And then not only does he already have them, if he'd have done that BMF walk down the ramp, it's one thing, but he went and got the four-wheeler.
Yeah.
Shot down there. Like, I popped myself. I was in the chest like, oh, he got the chair, the four-wheeler. I was like, here we go,
Yeah, I enjoyed watching it, but at the same time, there was just the night two was so weird. And coming out of it, and then like the Edge and Damian Priest stuff coming into Monday night, it's like that should have just started on Monday night. Why did we not? That felt like a Monday Night Raw angle to start a new faction. Why did we start that at WrestleMania? That's the end of the season, not the start.
That's what we were texting back and forth during the show, and that was my thing. It was like Mania is to end storylines.
Yes,
it's your payoff for a year's worth of stories, and now it's become a continuation or a start or a genesis for a story, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. The Monday after Raw is where that kicks off.
Yeah. Now, I got one more thing, and then we can move on to some more news because we've been on it for a while. But did you see the Mark Henry Twitter post where he says all I do is produce greatness, and it shows the hand slapping Sami Zayn and saying it's Mae Young and Mark Henry's hand making his debut at WrestleMania?
I did see that actually.
That was the best after effect for WrestleMania to me. Was that one got me good?
Well, that's a great example of why was this on the card.
Yeah,
you got a match where Wee Man is body slamming Sami Zayn, a former Intercontinental Champion, just because Wee Man's there with Johnny Knoxville. And I get it, it's for the ha-ha. I'm not a fan of that right there, especially not at WrestleMania. To me, that's maybe a SummerSlam, caliber match. Because you can squeeze the ha-ha into SummerSlam. Not WrestleMania, the showcase of the mortals.
Well, one celebrity match is enough for me. And we'd already had, by this point, what, 2?
Yeah.
I was done at that point. But not to continue to beat the dead horse, But why don't we move ahead? We've got some toy news. Not a lot, mostly just announcements. Hasbro Pulse is going to have some fan first live streams coming out tomorrow, April 6th, because we're recording this on Tuesday the 5th. You got Star Wars fan first at 11 a.m. So look forward to more repaints.
Yeah.
And then next Tuesday you have.
How many Bubba Fest do we get, Monster?
Oh, at this point, how can you even count them apart from anybody else? Because it's all Mandalorian armor or clone troopers, and they're all the same guy.
You'll probably get some battle damage.
Yeah. Well, next Tuesday we've got on April 12th we've got Transformers at 11 a.m. and a Power Rangers live stream at 12 p.m. Not sure why they're doing both of them on the same day. I'd have rather seen that broken up, but I guess they're just trying to get some pre-orders out there. They must have gotten some stock of something in and got to get some pre-orders out there to get them.
Let's be honest. Your wallet had rather see them in 2 days.
Yeah. After that, though, while we're on Power Rangers, Super 7 released their pre-orders for Ultimate Series 3 today. There's a Black Ranger, the Mighty Morphin Black Ranger, Blue Ranger, the Mighty Morphin Megazord, Fenster, Lord Zed, and his throne. I wasn't as impressed with the Lord Zed as I thought I'd be. I think the Hasbro one actually looks a little better. I don't know. There's something off on that one. I don't know if it's just because the renders. He just looks more like, I don't know, a little too bulky.
Well, you got to look at all the pictures because, like the first picture where he's just kind of standing there,
yeah,
I was like, it almost looked cartoony, and I think it's like because it's computer rendering. But the next picture that had like all of the accessories and whatnot, I mean, I was like, okay, he looks a lot better because if you can zoom in a little better on the face sculpt and some of the other things, he doesn't look as cartoony. And I will say Hasbro Lightning probably done a little more realistic version, but he's got the different hands. He's got the snake. He's got
I like the snake,
the orbs. I went in for him and the throne today, actually. I mean, I'm probably only going to open the throne because I have a Hasbro Lightning class that's open. So he's going to sit on the throne, but...
So the two things that got me in the wave though was they've been putting a head sculpt of each person who wore the Ranger suit, right? So like when the Black Ranger, you got Zach and Adam. When they got the ability, I was like, okay, there was only one Blue Ranger the entire time. Are they going to give us different head sculpts, or are they going to give us another accessory? So they went with the head sculpt with glasses from season 1, and like a season late 2/3 where he quit wearing the glasses and started slicking his hair back a little bit. And I was like, really? You're going to give us 2 head sculpts of the same person?
You get a creepy pedo version.
Yeah, but did you see the separate head sculpt on Lord Zed? Because he's got a second head sculpt too. And I looked at him. I was like, for a long time, I was like, well, the only difference is one looks a little fatter and like more cartoony looking with the way they did his grill. And I thought, why didn't you just do the Mighty Morphin movie version of his faceplate where he had like the angles? Because he had an angle on his cheekbones and on his chin. It made him look a little more menacing.
Yeah, I couldn't tell the difference in the two, honestly. I looked at them for a minute or something. I was like, is the visor on one maybe more red, like his eyes are glowing? Because he would have that effect occasionally.
And it may be that
it's
hard to tell because they were just renders. But yeah, either way, I think all the stuff looked cool if you're collecting that. But I still think, and I've been close to wanting to buy just the Rangers to have the Rangers and not anything else out of the set, but they still just don't look as good to me as a Lightning collection.
Zed's the first one of that Super 7 set that I've went in for. And I will say their Finster did look really good. I was impressed with him. Now, is he good enough for me to go spend $60? No, I'll go for the Lightning class version any day of the week because it looks just as great. But they did do a good job on Finster. I'll give them that. Yeah,
the Finster, he looked just as, I think they looked about equally as good between the two of those, between Lightning Collection and Super 7, but 54, 26.
Yeah.
I'm going with the 26.
All day long and twice on Sunday, baby.
But with that, let's jump over to comic news because we've got just one thing we wanted to share from comic news because I saw this and I've been reading this story and I don't have this issue yet where this happens. I actually have the two right before that, and that's when my last shipment came in. But it's everywhere. You see it everywhere you look. You can't not get the spoiler. But Ben Reilly is no longer Scarlet Spider or Spider-Man. He's now a new villain called Chasm. He has some slightly modified powers because of what happens to him in the storyline. I don't know what that is yet. I mean, I think he still has all the spider powers, but a couple others as well. And this new Venom symbiote knockoff costume that he's wearing, it looks like half Prowler, half Venom.
That's the thing right there. I mean, he looks cool. I've seen the promo picture for it. I haven't read the story leading up to it. I mean, I'm actually really behind. I have the issues, all but the last few. And thanks to our sponsor at the Zone Collectibles, Kevin, you're amazing. He sent me a text last week to tell me I had those leading up to the end, even this issue. But I seen the promo picture. He looks really cool. I like the way he looks, but he gives that symbiote vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's a symbiote. I mean, it's something to do with chemicals in his body, and then he can't see his face, so he's like.
Throughout this story, they've been erasing his memories, and he's been seeing like Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and he can't see their face and stuff. So now apparently he's lost his own identity in this as well.
But did we destroy him enough with that bullshit with the Jackal a few years ago? Where here's my thing. I'm one of the few people that liked the Clone Saga, other than the fact that it went longer than it should have, and it branched out away from the original story and went into like 75 issues. Yes. And I wasn't a fan of the fact that they made him the legit Peter Parker for a short spell there. I was never a fan of that right there because I felt like the Peter that was married to Mary Jane, that's who I grew up with. That was my Peter Parker.
Right.
So that was a little too much for me. But I've always loved the Ben Reilly character. He looks really cool. His initial concept was great. Why not? You tore him down with the Jackal. Okay, he becomes the one person he should hate more than anyone. The person that's fooled him into thinking he's someone he's not. Give him an existence he shouldn't have had. You make him him. And that's okay. You explain that later saying, well, he's got a fractured psyche because he's been killed, brought back, killed, resurrected, by the Jackal so many times that it fractured him. Okay, I can deal with that. But we've spent the last, 3 years between his solo title to becoming Spider-Man again, rebuilding Ben Reilly. Just to flip the switch again and put him right back where he was, it makes no sense.
And they have no problem having 35 Spider characters. Spider-Woman, Arachne, Miles Morales, Madam Web, Spider-Gwen.
Well, that was the bullshit excuse I read the other day. It was like the editors and the writers were like, well, Peter Parker's not going nowhere. It was time for him to come back, and Miles Morales isn't going nowhere. Okay, who gives a fuck if Miles Morales is going nowhere? You got room there for another Spider-Man. I
And
mean,
he doesn't have
make
to be
him the
Spider-Man.
Scarlet Spider.
Exactly. That's where I
That's
was
all
going.
he needs to be. He make him the Scarlet Spider. Give him a title. It works.
That
Kane carried that title for 2 years.
put him in his own city, or if you want to leave him in New York, let him and Peter team up from time to time and be like their brothers, like they were in part of the story. They treated each other and called each other brothers. Why do we have to ruin him again? I don't.
It makes no sense. That actually bothers me. Which I'll wait until I read it. But I just hate to see him as a villain. And I'm sure they'll try to redeem him again and squeeze a little more. But I got a bad feeling he's the one that died after this go around, and they're going to move on. Yeah.
Well, speaking of moving on, we'll move on to something Spider-Man related. We've got some movie and TV news here, and first one is going to be a quick spoiler-free review of Morbius. I did get to go watch it this weekend. I don't think you've seen it yet, have you?
I am waiting till that is a streamable, viable asset, or that you put it on Vudu for free.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do, because this was this was the second round of a Batman movie this year that was just not a successful Batperson movie. I watched it for the sit down and watch this. If this was on TV or on Sci-Fi, or I was just sitting at home and turning it on Vudu or something, it would have been an okay movie. It felt outdated. It felt like a 1990s superhero movie trying to be made in today's world. Out of 10, I rated it a 6.5, and that's being generous because of a couple of points I'll get to at the end. But negative-wise, the plot of this movie was short. It was short on story elements. There was a lot of plot holes. It's a fairly short runtime. It's only like an hour 40, hour 45, but it felt long because it just drug out certain things. And at the same time, I was like, well, this movie would have been better if you'd have put this and this in it that explained part of the story. It still could have been an hour 45, but they left out parts of the story to put something random in there. Or they left out, it felt like they just cut and edited things out. They're like, how did this happen? How did we get to this point? It's like, oh, people slept for 3 days or something, I guess, because we're 3 days later and we don't know what's going on. It was very weird in that aspect. And that was the biggest negative for me. Is like, it was hard. It wasn't that it was hard to follow. It's just they were trying to tell you the exact story they wanted to tell you so quickly they cut out all the filler and all the information you needed to get from point A to point B.
But do you feel like if you get a director's cut, like maybe somewhere down the pike, that it might be a little better? Because this movie kept going back for like reshoots, or it kept being delayed due to editing, or I'm sure editing. If it's that choppy, you would almost have to expect editing. But
maybe so. The neutral point of the review that I had for it was, Jared Leto as Michael Morbius was, I mean, he tried to play the character, and there's times when he plays the character well, like, Michael Morbius is a sickly guy to begin with, but not so sick that he's not egotistical and thinks highly of himself because he's so smart. So he wanted you to be real sympathetic when he was sickly, and then when he got powers and was, trying to figure things out, there's a part of him that should be a sympathetic character because he's been transformed by his own avarice into something, monstrous. But you only get that in little smidgens, and the rest of the time it's kind of like he's just there and he's being a smart aleck and he's making jokes and stuff. I'm like, that doesn't.
That was a thing through the previews I kept seeing, like, the one where it's like, oh, I'm just kidding. You're Dr. Michael Morbius. I'm like, no, Michael Morbius does not throw out quips. He is not Spider-Man.
Now, and that scene's not even in there.
A very arrogant, spirit of vengeance type character.
Yeah, and that scene is in there, but the lines are cut differently. And he doesn't even say the same thing he does in the preview for that.
Oh, wow.
Now, he does make the Venom remark, but he does not, and this is not a spoiler because it's been in the previews, but he makes the Venom remark, but he does not say, no, I'm just kidding, I'm Michael Morbius. He just, get out of here, because he's taking these guys' place.
Is there an after credit scene in this movie? Is it worth
Yes, there are 2 after credit scenes. Now, while they're entertaining for the face value of they're still trying to do something here with a Sony Spider-Man verse, for lack of a better term, even though they have no Spider-Man, they are also extremely, extremely lazily put together. It's like, oh, let's not expand upon this after credit scene we're building. Let's just use some pre-existing stuff to help this after credit scene, and then just do a couple of shots and say, "Hey, we did it." That's what it
Oh,
felt.
wow. Okay.
I don't call them negatives because they were interesting to see where they're going with them, but it was just like, you guys really didn't put much effort into it. You just kind of, we know this is over here, so let's just use
without
that.
spoilers, you know where they're going. They're going towards a Craven movie. They're going towards Venom 3. And they've already shit the bed and said they're not going to fool with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man 3 at all. It's not happening. That's their Spider-Man. So I mean, you hear rumors of a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4 being greenlit, but Raimi has already said the only way he'll do it is if it's his Spider-Man story progressing the way he wanted it to.
Well, and even with these after credit scenes, they don't lead you into any of those other movies. They try to connect those movies, saying, "Hey, what are we going to do with Craven coming up? What are we going to do with Venom coming up?" So they're trying to build something there, but they're not trying to say, "Here's what connects these movies." They're trying to say, "Hey, you're going to have all these characters. Guess what we can do later?" That's what they're building up to.
Would you give it a DS Warden or an Excelsior?
Neither. It wasn't terrible. I'll be honest with you. If I got to rate this and say what's the worst comic movie I've seen this year, I still say The Batman.
Oh, wow.
I think this still beats it, but very small smidgen. And the reason I think it does, here's the positives I got out of it. Matt Smith, fantastic villain. He played the part perfectly. He played it exactly how it should have been played, considering what that character went through. And you saw bits and pieces of how he was very energetic when he was the Doctor. You saw that with him as a villain, and that was pretty neat to see.
Well, that's the thing. He was the Doctor. Whether you like, he was your doctor or not, he was the Doctor. So I'll give most anything with him a chance. I mean, I even like the shitty Terminator movie he was in. So
he did that as the villain in this movie, and he was fantastic at it. And the other good thing I will say is the visuals they did on this movie. The movie itself felt like an older style comic movie, but the visuals felt modern. There's one of them that's a little weird. Like when he moves around, there's like this misting, streaming after effect, which kind of makes sense for a vampire, but they do it a little. It looks cool for a few scenes when he's fighting and stuff, but they did it so much it would get on your nerves at times. It's like, will you stop doing that so I can see what's going on?
I feel like the radar effect was what you was going to get sick with before it was all said.
No, that was actually really cool. That was actually really cool. And I will say this as a slight spoiler. So if anybody doesn't want to hear this, skip ahead a couple minutes. But like when he would activate his radar sense and stuff, they would go to like his ears and they would kind of elongate a little bit, and you could see all the hairs inside of his ear actually stand up on end and move around like he's using the hearing. Because that's the hairs in your ears are there to assist in hearing, right? To carry the vibrations. You would see that happening, and then you would see the sonar wasn't bad. It was just the misting effect when he would move around. Sometimes it would get a little bit on your nerves. For anybody who wants to hear spoiler review of it and get my exact same thoughts, because I could not have in any way expressed it any better, go watch Black Nerd Comedy on YouTube with Andre. His review of it is 100% exactly how I felt, but he explains it in much more detail than I'm trying to avoid doing here for a spoiler-free review. But it was what it was. It wasn't terrible. I would have rather seen it at home than I would have on the big screen, just because it just wasn't worth the extra money to go. The only other movie and TV news we really have this week is Obi-Wan premiere date was pushed back a couple of days. Just a couple of days, so it's from the 25th to the 27th now. But with that, they're also actually going to do the first 2 episodes instead of just the first episode when they release on it.
Well, that's a Friday. I'd rather have it drop on a Friday, though.
Well, for me too, because I try to watch them with the kid, and we don't watch them during the week, so it's better for us when we get to the end of the week. And
see, I'm one of the few people that I am an AEW loyalist, so I do watch AEW on Wednesday night. So when it drops on Wednesday, it's typically Thursday before I get to watch it anyways.
But with that, I think that was all the news. So at this point, we're going to jump over to our special interview with Mr. August Aguilar from Strange Film Studios. And we will see you back here in just a couple of minutes where we'll do Nerd Out.
Everybody would like to welcome Mr. August Aguilar. He is the director of Strange Film Productions. He's done countless things. And so tell us a little about yourself, boss man.
All right. Thanks, Gary, David. I really appreciate you guys having me on today. I'm happy to be here. My name is August. I'm with Strange Films Studios. Strange Films I made back in 2016. So we've been at it for about 5 years now. Coming up, 5-6 years now. I started out with just films. It originally kind of stemmed by this idea of making a horror film for a horror film festival, and that's all really it was at the time. It was just like I have a background in film, somewhat, just kind of growing up playing around with cameras, and then in high school, and then actively studying it in college. So, working with film and always having a passion for it. When I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, I saw that ad for the horror film festival, and I was like, I got to make one. I want to try. So, I reached out to my father, Frank Aguilar. He's kind of like the co-founder of Strange Films with me, because me and him were originally the ones that kind of was like, we got our ideas together to make this first horror film, which ended up being There's Something Down the Road. And that film, when we shot it together, put it out there and got good reception from it, it just sparked this excitement and really kind of got my juices going, and I couldn't stop at that point. We were just like, oh, well, he had no script ready to go in Philadelphia, and that ended up being Center City. And then we just and then I had another script that I wanted to do, and then I just ended up making another film. But then the films kind of it started with films, like I said, but then I just started kind of dabbling in all these other things. Like I'm very, very passionate about music and musicians. So I started reaching out to musicians, and I started getting really, really involved with the local music scene here. And, I've done maybe almost a couple dozen different music video projects as far as live shows and actual music videos and different events and whatnot. And then, I started the Strange Films, kind of went from films to comic books, started writing comic books, and we made a couple comics now. We're working on a third one. We have original artwork, commissioned artwork from tons of different artists. We just have this huge gallery, a collection of different original artwork. We did podcasts at one point. It's literally just a multimedia production company now, and that's kind of where Strange Films at. It's we love doing horror genre because it's a fan favorite, and we have fun doing it, but it's really limitless. I mean, we can do anything, and I like to do different genres, and I like to do different kinds of projects other than films.
You guys have a huge melting pot that you got your hands into, just a little bit of everything.
Sometimes it's like too much. I'm like, what did I get myself into? I should have just stuck with one thing. But I can't help it. I love every kind of art, and I admire so many different artists. And when I get, when I have an idea, it's really hard for me to stop. So I end up talking with all kinds of other people. We just collaborate, and the next thing I know, I have some other new project out, and I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that, but here we are. Now I can't stop. I'm like, I got too many ideas out there, and so it's a big melting pot for sure.
Would you say that your love of art and comics and things of this nature will be what kind of bit you and give you the bug to be behind the camera as opposed to in front of the camera?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I never really had interest in being in front of the camera. In college, we had to do some stuff that required us to be in front of camera, and maybe one out of the handful I thought was fun. And there's a part of me that was like, it's still even today, like maybe I should try at least maybe another time, like go for it, because I have a buddy of mine, Blake Hall. He's currently writing a film. He wants me to be in the film, and I tell him every time, dude, I'm not an actor. I like to do everything behind the camera and everything, but he's really persistent on me being in front of the camera. So I'm like, man, maybe I should try it. But no, everything behind the camera, behind the scenes, like I love the making of things, and I love the actual finished product, and to know that I had my hand in that finished product, creatively, kind of like constructing. I like tinkering with things, so that's kind of like where I like being behind the camera versus on. I can. On camera, I get a little bit more shy and whatnot, especially when it comes to like creating, if it's acting or whatever it is. So yeah.
I wanted to ask, just because you got your hand in so many things, though. What's kind of your creative process? How do you go through and decide, hey, this is a project we want to do and that I want to work on, and And then how do you kind of flesh it out from there?
It really just depends, man. I mean, a lot of it's on the fly. A lot of it's like I just think of a random idea and I think it's cool. I start like really, really spinning the wheels about, can I realistically do it? And then I think about it in a realistic way, like a no budget way, local talent wise, like local everything wise. Like how can I, if I wanted to do it, how can I do it? And then when it comes to like actually getting it done, it's kind of just like, I throw some music on, I start writing it out, and then I just, if I know if it's written out and I know I can physically do it, then I'm like, all right, well, let's go for it, and it's really easy for me now at this point to be like, I can cast just about anybody I need to for a particular project. When we're talking about film, at least, and filming, it's really loose. It's like guerrilla style filmmaking. I mean, it's kind of like run and gun. Most of the time, it's one man band, which is me. I do everything as far as the audio, the video, the directing, and everything that goes to it. There's times. Don't get me wrong. There's times I've had complete cast and crew, which is awesome. I really appreciate when I have crew with me. But if it's something that I'm like, I don't want to spend too much time on, it's like I'll just do it all myself. And it's like I just, it's kind of like I have to chase the ball and get it right now. Otherwise, if I don't, I'm gonna just be like, okay, wait, like I'll come back to it one day, And
definitely don't have to worry about butting heads with a producer that way, do you?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to like run into like an issue where I'm spending 3 hours just trying to figure out one little thing. It's just like, dude, we got to, especially because we are no budget and most of the time, and it's very indie, so it's kind of like I don't have a lot of time to spend on doing a lot of things. I'm going to find the most cost efficient, timely mannered way to produce anything. And then when it comes to like other projects like music, musicians, or anything, if I hear a good song, if I see a really cool live video or or a photo of like a local band or something, and then I dig into them a little bit, I find their music interesting, I'll reach out. I'm like, hey, I like your stuff, like what's going on? If you ever need anything, let me know. If you ever want to get together or shoot some stuff or whatever, let me know. And then that's kind of how that train rolls. The comics is more like, the comics is a really long-term plan because that costs a little bit more money and time and whatnot. My artist is a really, really great artist and great friend, Tim Cervero. But we kind of have a great relationship working on that. But it's very much more of a thought-out and expense plan than just kind of like, hey, I want to do this right now and let's do it. But yeah, I mean, most of the time it's just like on the fly thinking, and then there's sometimes I drive a lot for work, so have a lot of time to think about other stuff, or if I experience real life events that sometimes inspire me, that triggers like an idea. There's just like a lot of the ideas either come from real life experience, random thoughts that come with extra time on my hands, or even watching movies. I find, or listening to like podcasts. If I listen to something interesting or watch something interesting, I'm like, but what if you did this? And then I kind of twist it and I turn it into a new idea. So that's kind of like a lot of that stuff comes from.
So you said you're in the Knoxville area?
Yep. Been here about since 2015. So
is it pretty easy to find talent, local talent there that's viable for whatever project you're working on, or do you kind of outsource, or how do you go about that?
It's really interesting. Like Knoxville is actually a really, really creative hub. I didn't think that when I first moved here, but it's tons of filmmakers, even more actors, lots of artists and musicians. It's a really creative town. It does have its own like social cliques, I think. So you kind of got to be in the right, avenue with it a lot of times. But at the same time, like I said, I am at a point now where if I was to put out a casting call tomorrow for 3 roles, I'd probably get like at least 40 different people hitting me up just within the area. And then even if I wanted to reach outward, I've had people within like the Ohio range, like Virginia, North Carolina, all those southern border states, like in that area. And we have a really big following in Philadelphia. So a lot of my following online actually gets confused with some of my stuff that I'm posting because they think I'm posting from Philly, but I'm actually posting from Knoxville. So they'll be hitting me up and be like, "Hey, I can do this." I'm like, "No, I'm sorry. I meant to say I'm in Knoxville. This is for Knoxville, not Philly." But because if I posted something for Philly, we'd probably have double or triple the amount of people trying to hit us up.
Oh, wow.
We've got a bigger following in Philadelphia than in Knoxville, and that's only because one, I'm originally from Philadelphia, and two, my dad, like I said, Frank, he still lives up there, so me and him kind of operate Strange Films between Philly and Knoxville simultaneously. So he produces up there, I produce down here, and when projects he gets arranged up north, I come up, fly up there, and go do them. When I have projects I produce down here, most of the time I just do it by myself. But sometimes on occasion he would come down here and tag along. But so we do have mostly those casting from local areas or regional is mainly just through Facebook. Man, we have a lot of Facebook different groups like film groups that I reach out in and just say, "Hey, looking for this," and they come running. Thankfully, I mean, if they didn't, I'd be really sad.
That's a good problem to have. I got to stumble upon you guys at the Atlanta Days of the Dead this year. That's kind of where I was enlightened upon you guys, and we're all out. How far out do you kind of go to these cons and things to do the film festivals?
Yeah, so the conventions are still relatively a new experience for me. But the thing is, COVID really screwed that up because starting in 2019 is really when I was like, I'm going to do conventions every year now. Like, I'm going to get Strange Films at a booth at every city I can. And we're going to just promote our stuff and actively, as we're doing work, bring it to these conventions and, get new audiences. Because what I found was when we were hitting the comic book art or the film and the comic book audiences, we were doing really, really well and gaining a lot more followers. So I was like, these conventions are going to really help because we have a lot of comic book people that come to these things. We have a lot of film people that come to these things. So this is a perfect spot to do it. So in 2019, I think I only did two, but I did, and they were locally and regionally, but I had I hit up maybe a dozen different ones at least that I bought a few tables at, and then I reached out to others that I actually got hooked on as a guest. Like I was going to be featured as a guest, have some films play, have a table and everything. And that was between Chattanooga, I think one was in North Carolina, and then others, like I said, I was going to be getting spots around in Kentucky and Georgia. Just I was trying to hit the regional southern border states just because I didn't want to drive 12 hours somewhere. If I can drive somewhere that's within 6 hour range easily, then that's a great for me, But then COVID hit, all those stuff. I mean, everything for the year and the year and a half calendar that I had booked was gone. And then we had a kid, so now and I'm very thankful and blessed and everything. But that definitely put me back. Took some time away from Strange Films again, as well as dealing with COVID. So now that kind of things have settled somewhat, I'm like, all right, let's get back into the convention scene again. So we did CreepyCon back in August of last year here in Knoxville, and then I did Smoky Mountain Fan Fest in Gatlinburg this past year as well. And then I did the Days of the Dead, which worked out really in the benefit of being able to set up as a convention table as well as being a filmmaker, because I really just submitted for a film in there. But I guess to answer the question thoroughly is I submit more to film festivals around the country and the world than I do for conventions. I'm working on trying to get my convention game up as far as regionally and nationally. But it just requires a lot of time and money. But the film festival is great because it does require some money to submit, but most of the time, well, a lot of the times I've been fortunate enough to be accepted in a lot of film festivals around the country. So I've been to Long Beach, California, Chicago. Well, so a lot of these places I visited, but the others I didn't. But Chicago, we've done a lot up north, a lot down south in Florida, Georgia. I think Illinois was one. So a lot out west, Los Angeles, and so a lot out west, north, south, and then locally, regionally, in this area. The film festival game is kind of where I really hit, or try to hit at least most of the time. And if I can travel to it, I definitely will. So one of like the coolest experiences was we got to go out to fly out to Long Beach for our horror film Cindy's birthday party, and it was a horror convention at the same time. So it was just like a lot of fun to be around that community and see our film play in Long Beach. But yeah, so we've been fortunate enough in the film festival area, but the conventions we're still working up. Hopefully next year or two, I'll be able to kind of travel a little bit more and have my have a few more under my belt, by then.
What would you say would be your market, so to speak? I mean, are you primarily staying with the horror during your films, or are you kind of like branching out into suspense, or trying your thing? I can tell by Butch Beer. I mean, you definitely got a little comedy under your belt, because I got pretty tickled with your Butch Beer commercial. So I mean, what would you say you want to stick with, or do you just kind of want to fill out into everything?
So that's kind of like what I was mentioning earlier. It's kind of the problem with the melting pot that I've got, right? So it's like when people look at Strange Films, especially with our logo and the majority of horror films that we've done, they think we only do horror films, which is great. A lot of people, there's a huge horror community, but I do a lot more than horror. I love doing other stuff, like comedy for one. I actually really love doing dramas and indie films. Like I love doing that kind of stuff. Musicians and like music and documentaries and stuff like that. Like I do things in that area. There's other genres I love to play with and that I have passion for that I want to work on. And there's scripts that I have that are just way outside the horror genre, and I'm gonna do, but I'll probably just still put it on the Strange Films banner because I've built it up so much,
It's established.
Yeah, it's established. Why would I? I don't want to confuse people by just like constantly producing stuff under different names. Or I mean, I could put my name, I guess, but Strange Films is so established that I want to keep that name going. But I just want people to know that Strange Films is like A24, like A24 does all these different kinds of genre films. And a lot of them are weird and kind of intense or whatever and bizarre. And then there's a lot that are like really indie and really cool drama stuff. There's like a lot of artsy kind of films in that banner. But like, I don't think they would ever limit themselves to one particular kind of film. Now Blumhouse, they do mainly horror, and that's great. That's like their signature. Strange Films will probably be known as doing horror stuff, which is cool. If I can keep cranking out horror films that I'm really happy and passionate about, then I'm happy that people know us about that. But I definitely have other genres that I'm passionate about, other stuff I want to do, and things I'm currently working on that are way outside the horror genre, or they'll have a sprinkle of strange in it, but they're not necessarily a horror film, So, but Strange Films is kind of just like my A24. It's my production house, and it's got all these different like layers underneath it that I plan on just producing everything underneath.
So definitely trying to avoid the Full Moon Studios niche.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I always said that I didn't want to be like labeled as like a Wes Craven, where you just only do horror movies, because I've got some drama stuff out there, and I've got some indie stuff out there that I've gotten a lot of praise on locally, but people like that kind of stuff, and like I'm really fascinated by personal stories. I'm really fascinated by people in general. I'm really fascinated by stories that move you, and these kinds of things. When I get interested enough about it, I want to make stories about, or I want to tell stories, like share someone's personal journey and stuff like that. So whether it's a documentary or it's something I write, based off my own experience or things I've witnessed or heard or just something I thought about. Like these things, like they intrigue me enough where it makes me feel like it's a passion of mine, and I want to be able to tell those kinds of stories in a visually impelling way. So yeah, I just don't want to be known as the horror guy because, to be honest, I love horror movies. I really do, but it's not my favorite genre. It's like, I'd probably watch a comedy 10 times more than I'd watch a horror film. I love comedies, and I really love indie stuff. But horror is just fun. I love doing horror movies because I can just get wild with it and be a weirdo and I love my 70s 80s like influence style. So I really try to run in that vein and kind of have fun and be passionate in that sense versus I don't want to just be scary just to be like stupid scary. There's probably a core to the story more than most of the time than just making some random thing. So yeah, definitely don't want to be completely labeled as just like a horror director.
Yeah, and Hassel, David over there, he's our bigger horror fan than I am. What I saw of your work, it was the first thing that he passed to me, which was Raven. But what's some of your other projects that you're really and yeah, I got paper and pen here because I got to write them down so I can go watch some of them. But what's some of your other projects you've done that were I know they're all like your children, right? It's like how do you pick your favorite child, but what's some of the ones that you would suggest to go watch? Especially I like documentaries, so I'll admit that up front.
So it's interesting. So Raven is our newest film, and it's awesome. I'm actually really happy with that film, how it came out. And it's kind of in that horror genre, but it's really more in like the thriller, like kind of dark drama film. And I think
it felt very psychological.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of I love going in that direction. Like if something can kind of creep you out, but at the same time you're more like just like intrigued by the character and the psychological aspects of it. That's really where I love to be at. But so another film you should check out, and that's probably our number one favorite, Center City. It's a all Philadelphia film based. We shot it all around Philly in Center City directly. It's a black and white film noir, original jazz music that our good friend Mike Raymond Jr. He was 15 years old at the time. So when you listen to that music, it's really intricate, really, really sophisticated. And it's like, it's amazing jazz. And he wrote and orchestrated all of it. And he was 15 years old. It's amazing.
Wow.
But it's amazing. And that film has gone on to win several awards, been featured by the Philadelphia Film Society, featured on numerous different radio and podcast shows. We've got 4 different films that's it's attached to, there's a Center City series, I should say. So there's 5 films in total. The 5th one is still in production, but there's 4 films in total out currently. But Center City is the one you want to start with. That Butch beer commercial that you watch, that is, if you watch that character Butch, he's in Center City. So like,
okay.
That guy, he's in Center City. He's in his own film called Butch. He's in another music video I did by Whiskey Effect. He pops up in all these other films. But Center City, it's not a horror film. It's a crime drama. It's a crime like thriller noir. And you watch it, and it's like I said, it's not horror. So I'm telling a story with these characters that it's in this crime drama vein, and it's black and white and this jazz, and it's a really beautiful kind of feeling. I feel like with the city and everything in the background, a lot of that stuff is kind of, like I said, kind of what I look for. Another film I'd say is Pandora. That was a film I did back in 2020, which is crazy because it's only 2 years. But it's a very much of a thriller kind of film. I watched Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler in theaters like 2 weeks before that, and that film got me on such a high. I had to go make a film that made me want to do a non-stop anxiety-inducing like thriller, like where it's like moving consistently. And Pandora was the inspiration, or what became from that inspiration. And it's not a horror film. I mean, there's weird things in it. You know, there's probably some really bizarre, strange, like, themes or elements in it, but it's not a horror film. It's just a thriller, and it's in the vein where I'm trying to get, like, I guess if you watch some of my later films versus my early films, I think my directing, my writing is kind of going in a direction where it's like I'm really trying to get grounded with my storytelling and driving it where you're constantly trying to wonder what's going on, you know, then just being completely just, you know, blinded with the horror or whatever I'm trying to do. But yeah, so Pandora, Center City, let's see, Raven, and then the documentary. If you watch, if you YouTube stories of George Monterano, he is, you can even Google him, George Monterano. He's got his own Wikipedia page too, but he's a let me try to word this right. Let's see. So he went to prison like 35, maybe almost even 40 years ago for trafficking marijuana. And his father was like a mob boss, or a mob guy, I should say, a mob guy in Philadelphia, Long John Monterano. So his family is kind of mafia related, right? So when he went to prison, it was a non-violent offense. He just got, he trafficked some weed, went to jail, but he got the longest sentence for a non-violent offense in like in history at his time. So he was with isolation, like in solitary, and he was a stellar inmate. He taught classes. He wrote dozens of screenplays and novels and poetry. He actually stopped a hijacking in one of these transports. They were transporting some prisoners. He stopped the hijacking and everything. But they kept putting him in solitary just because of his name and whatever he had ties with his family and all this stuff. Anyways, ended up being Obama's time in presidency. And he passed this new law where they pardoned some criminals for nonviolent offenses, and he got pardoned by Obama, and he got out of prison, and now he's an activist. He's an activist for people who go to prison for marijuana charges that are nonviolent. He's an activist for, like, against guns and violence in general. He's like I said, he's still like an author. He writes, he does poetry, he does conventions, he does all these amazing things. He opened up a hemp shop in Philadelphia. He's opened up all these different shops. He has like his own beer brand and all these different things. Like he's a beautiful, well-spoken, creative, one of the most brilliant minds I've ever had the pleasure of like experiencing, as well as getting to know. And me and him have a really, really great relationship and love for each other. And he really respects me, and I really respect him. And I'm one of the few people he actually lets really, really close in to kind of like document a lot of the stuff he talks about and does. And I'm really honored and privileged to do that. So if you look up stories of George Monterano on YouTube, currently I think there's only like 5 or 6 videos out there. But that's kind of somewhat the narrative that we were going in the direction at the time I was filming with him. Just kind of telling his story, and how his outlook on life and creative stuff that he does. So I like doing stuff like that, like I like hearing compelling stories and hearing, people, like good people talk about good things and stuff like that. Really inspires me.
Well, it's extremely incredible that he can stay positive through all of that. Most people will become bitter,
Man, it's amazing. It's really, really sad because, like, if you just hear the stories that he tells sometimes, like, you go mad. You would go mad being locked up in solitary. Like he couldn't even tell what day it was after being in there for like 30 days at a time. Just like, he lost a lot of opportunities to see his family. I think maybe like seeing his daughter born, like all these different things, and like a lot of different wild things that like they just like treated him so poorly. But he found light out of it. Like he really did. He stayed in a positive manner where he was able to not only be a positive influence for people within the jail that he was in, the prisons he was in for people, but he inspired himself, and he wrote like I mean, I've got one of his books upstairs that he gave me and signed for me, and it's amazing. Like I read the book front to back. It's so well written, and it's powerful. It's like, and he's written tons of stuff like that. Like just and he's just like a really really creative guy. And like if you listen to him speak, it's like he's telling stories that you can visually see, and you're feeling every word he's saying. So it's an amazing human being. He's on Facebook, he's on YouTube. He's probably got his own website. I mean, he's all over the internet. So if you just look up George Monterano, you can just kind of even get, if you just look up a couple of videos of him, you'll just get like a sense of like who this guy is, and he's really inspiring. He really is. So I'm hoping I get to see him soon. We got plans, hopefully, to see him this year, and I'll kind of maybe get another video or two out of him before I have to go back home. So
that'll be cool. Yeah, I'll look that up after we get done here this evening. But I had a question about being behind the scenes and behind the camera and stuff, because I can tell you we do this show, and it's the two of us, and it's maybe 2 hours a week, and then it's another 2 hours of editing. For you to do an entire movie or film or short or even the comics you do and stuff, that's got to be a lot of behind the scenes work and a lot of hours put in. How tough is it to get some of that done sometimes? And
I mean, sometimes it's really hard. I mean, it's a mental game. You got to like commit to it. It's like I think the good thing about it is that I love it so much. It doesn't really feel like work until it gets like hour 8, and I'm like, holy, like I'm tired. Like I'm like, I need to like kick back, like I need to take a break. But like for the most part, I mean, it's just I've got so much passion behind it. It doesn't feel like I like doing it, like it doesn't make me feel like I hate, oh man, like I got to do this, like it's gonna take so long, take so much effort, like I like getting my hands dirty with it, and I love like creating. So it's not like something that I dread, but I am human, and I do need my own like mental breaks, and I've got my own other stuff going on, so I do have to like figure out like the proper times to do things, and then spend time with my family and spend time with myself and this and that. So
because a wife will stick her head down there sometimes and say, hey, it's time to shut it down.
Especially now having a child. Hey, honey.
yeah.
Made some sporadic editing, and then I got to go back, So, but for the most part, though, when I'm filming, especially, right? So, a lot of the times, I'm going to say for probably 80% of my films, I've shot in one day. And sometimes, like Raven, it's 26 minutes long. A lot of people will take like 3-4 days to just shoot something like that long, like because they want to take their proper time to do that, which is great, and I think you should. But I shot that in 9 hours just because I didn't have the time to. I didn't have 2 days. I didn't have 12 hours. I didn't have a huge crew that I could count on. I have one opportunity to do things, and most of the time I do it in a very short amount of time, and I work like that. But it's like a pressure that makes me, I guess, maybe act swiftly and efficiently to do it real quick. And then when I'm done with the nitty gritty stuff, and I can take my own time to edit and breathe, then yeah, I can take my own time to do that. But the thing is, like, I'll break it up in sessions. Like my first editing session, maybe like 2 or 3 hours, just kind of sorting out the footage, organizing everything, watching everything back. And then I don't even edit it. I'll just like take a step back. I'll take a day. I'll kind of think about everything, and then I'll go back and do another 2-hour session of just kind of starting the editing process. And I think it's all about balance with whatever you do. It's if now, don't get me wrong, if I'm in like a really really big groove and I can go 4, 5, 6 hours doing something, hell yeah. But most of the time, I don't have time to even do that. So I take my time a lot. Like you said, you got 2 hours to do this, and you got 2 hours to edit. I know I got 2 hours to edit here. I'm going to take my 2 hours. I'm really going to enjoy myself. I'm going to crank out as much as I possibly can. And then it's okay for me to take a step back, because I'm constantly thinking about the next step later on after I get done. And then I'm eager to get back to it. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I just dread going back to that editing session. It was like I'm excited. I've thought about the next step of the edit. I'm gonna go back and do it. The writing comics and stuff like that, like that's a really long-term process, but most part it's already kind of written out. It's just kind of like, when do I have an extra $50 to send to my artist to pay for, the art, and then write the next page so I can send him another $50. That's more of a financial thing. We're going to probably be launching a Kickstarter the next like month or two to finish this third comic out, because we've done 2 Kickstarters before with the other 2 comics, and they got overfunded with a lot of tremendous support working on these comics. But I've probably put more of my own resources into this third one than I did with the previous 2, just because I've been working on it for a lot longer. But now it's kind of getting close to a finishing point, and I'd like to go ahead and put it out there to see if we can get it, finished faster than me spending the rest of the year trying to get it finished. So we'll probably do something like that. But yeah, I mean, spending time on things is like, I guess it's a mental game. Sometimes I'm just not, a lot of life stuff is going on and I can't get to things, and it's just like, it's overwhelming to even think about like trying to do something creative. But when I'm in the mood and I know I've got something on my plate and I'm happy about it, I'm excited about it, it's not a burden, it's a challenge, and I love challenges and I love getting at it, and I love, because I know what the outcome is going to somewhat look like, and I'm excited because I want the world to see it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I just try to find balance with making my time as valuable as it can be for myself and my family. So.
And do you feel like it's kind of maybe a little more liberating knowing that, okay, well, knock this out in one day, versus knowing, okay, I got 4 days of shooting, and maybe overthinking and reshooting things that you wouldn't have reshot before, but that, just because you had extra time?
So I guess like, if I had the extra time, I mean, it'd be wonderful to be able to plot out everything and plan accordingly and everything like that. And then like, if I feel like I missed a shot later after even all that, I'd be like, oh man, like how did I do that? But a lot of times it's like, I do it in one day or something. I feel like as quickly as I'm thinking of everything for the most part, but every time, 95% of the time, I know I missed something, and then I realize later on, but then I just somehow make it work, because a lot of the times we improv too. We do a lot of improv when we're shooting. We're just be like what I tell all my actors is, here's a script, but just make it your own. Like if this dialogue isn't reading right to you, then you can improv it up. You can do whatever, ham it up, whatever you want to do.
Become the character.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're nailing the tone, as long as you're getting the point across, as long as we're moving this story forward and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing within this page, I don't care how you say it or what you do. Please enlighten me. Like share with me your own personal take. And then sometimes we'll be looking at something, and I'll, because a lot of times I'm shooting at a location where I've never been before also. And I'm shooting, and I'm like, I see something in the corner of my eye. I'm like, that looks cool over there. Why don't we try this? And then somehow we create a whole new scene sporadically, randomly, and then it ends up working. And the stuff that I missed, it's fine, because whatever we randomly shot on the fly between actors improving or us improving like an action or a location or a prop or something like that, kind of helps fill that gap, So if you watch Pandora, that's probably my most highly produced film. I mean, I had a really great DP, I had a really great audio guy, really great lighting, everything behind that stuff. It was kind of a challenge for me because I wasn't used to doing, like, having all that. So when the DP is like setting up a shot and it takes more than 15 minutes, I'm like getting angsty. I'm like, dude, just take the camera on and just
Ready to action.
Yeah, like, come on, let's just shoot. And he's like, no, just trust me. I'm like, okay. And I'm glad I did, because obviously it looked great and it's amazing, when you watch the final product. But it's even then though, like I said, me and him, we we met beforehand. We talked about the script and everything. We laid out shots and all that. But even even after we did all that and I'm editing, I'm like, oh, I think we missed that. I think it's just like it's natural to kind of maybe miss something or miss an opportunity or do something like that, especially when you're this low budget or indie. But you just kind of have to roll the punches and then creatively think of, how to get through it afterwards.
So out of all the, whether it's writing, producing, directing, or casting, what would you say is probably, if there even is one, that's typically the most difficult one to do? If that question even made sense. It did in my head when I started it.
Probably the most difficult would be, right? I don't know. Like writing, I think writing is harder than directing for me because I love writing and I get excited about writing and I'll write a ton, but it's always a challenge to kind of finalize the writing, like actually get through the writing process. Like, dude, I'll do a 60-page script and I'm like working on page 65 and I'm at work and I'm like, wait a minute, I have another idea. What if I did this instead? Because I'm stuck at page 65. I've been thinking about it all day and I'm like, what if I did this instead? And that would make sense and then I can move forward and da-da-da. And then I go back home and I'm rewriting and I go back to like page 30 and I'm rewriting from that. I erased everything. I'm rewriting and then I'm at page 44 and I'm like, dude, this doesn't make any freaking sense. Like, what am I even doing? I erased all my work and now I'm pissed because I can't even finish the script. And I'm like, I do that all the time with like different ideas, whether it's a short or a feature or anything. So like writing is like, you're your own worst critic. It's like, you're like, no matter what you write, you think it's probably crappy or you think it's cheesy or you think it's hard to get through and this and that. But I'm learning, like, you just got to plow through it. You got to just like stick with your gut, stick with your original idea. And no matter how hard it gets, if you're stuck at that page 8 and you got to get to page 10, write something that's completely off guard and then just keep going and finish it. And then go back later and try to tweak it, because if you never finish it, you're never going to finish your script, right? So it's like writing is just so hard because it's a mental game itself. It's like you're just going to be judging your own writing as you're going. And I do that all the time. I mean, it's taken me a long time to be confident in what I write. And probably the last 2 years is what I've been learning to just like, just stick with my gut, stick with my concept and just get through it. And then after I get done with it, maybe show it around or do a second edit is kind of when I can really craft it to the next draft it needs to be at. When it comes to directing, I mean, I get in my element, it's like, I'm not gonna lie, it's really intimidating when I walk on set. I get really nervous. I have to drink like a Red Bull. I gotta get my own space. Like, I have to step away from everybody for like 15 minutes, like psych myself up. Like, it's a really, really daunting experience. And then I'd say probably my first 5 or 6 takes, I feel really rough. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But then it's just like, it clicks. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do this. And I'm like, it's like I can't stop. You hit
that zone and you get into your little level.
I feel like I'm right in the middle of it. It's like maybe I don't even know really what I'm doing, but my body and my mind's doing it for me. And I'm just like, and I get in the zone and I have a lot of fun doing it. And from what I've told, I've had great experiences on set with everybody I've worked with. And they say I just kind of go into a different place and I start directing. And I love doing that. It's like, it's a really daunting experience at first, but once I do it, I know I do it like in this natural instinct kind of way. Writing is never a natural instinct. I'm just like, let's see if this sounds good. And then I'm lucky sometimes it does sound good, but I've got tons of scripts that probably don't sound too good.
I could feel you on that one, because I would struggle I could come up with a plot, but you asked me to write dialogue for somebody, and we're done. I'm through right there. I don't do dialogue. I don't know what to say. I can barely make it up myself half the time. What I'm saying.
I feel like that's the burden of creative people, though, because like we used to toy around with writing comics and stuff, and like Monster, he would come up with a plot or idea, and I would always, do the sketching or whatnot, and I would probably throw away more than I ever kept, and I'd just be my own worst critic. I'd be drawing, and like even now, like I'll occasionally sketch or paint something, and my fiance will see it, and she'll like, I'll get frustrated and I'll throw it away. She's like, "Why'd you just throw it away?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "What? I sucked. It was the shits." And she said, "Now that looked really good. Why'd you throw that away?" I was like, "Well, it looked like shit to me, but now it's trash because I done balled it up, So that's
Yeah, I mean, it's true. No matter what we do, I mean, like, even some of my first like edits when I'm editing the film, like, I'm like, oh, this looks like shit, and I have to like work that out or show it around a couple times before someone's like, no, you're on the right track. Like, keep going. I'm like, okay. But like writing, yeah, it's that is, and I've heard this from so many different writers across the board, and I listen to a lot of different creative podcasts where it's the same like concept. I mean, it's so hard to like accept what you're writing and be confident with what you're writing, and dialogue especially. I mean, honestly, I'd say I'm more confident with dialogue now than actually like plot. I used to be strictly plot, but now I love writing dialogue. I think because my motive with writing dialogue is like, what would I love to see or hear in real life, but I know is not going to happen. It's like what would some person I would in my script, if I can write this person's going to say this because it's so offbeat and so wild and bizarre or uncensored that I know is not going to happen when I go to the grocery store or go wherever I want to go. Like that, I can write that in the script because that's what movies are about. It's like you can apply really crazy conversations in real life situations in film that you would fantasize in real life, but you won't ever see. So it's like I have a lot of fun doing that now. But yeah, you just gotta. I think we have to all, as far as creatives ourselves, we have to have one little sliver of confidence that just allows us to be okay with what we're doing, no matter if it's good, bad, anything. Just to be able to say, "Hey, I did this." Maybe show it to a friend, fiance, partner, anybody, and say, "Hey, that's what I did." I don't know how I feel, but do you like it, or should I keep going, or this and that? Like, because it's what I did. It's like, and we have to have. I think we have to have a confidence with it. I'm starting to learn. I've learned that a lot more recently than I ever have, but it's hard. I know it's hard.
Yeah. So most of what you've produced, I'm assuming, has been under the banner of your strange films, and that sounds like that's more of a labor of love than it is an actual work. So, do you think you'd ever want to do a feature film for a large studio or something, or is that just like at that point it becomes too much work and it's like, that's work. That's not my labor of love anymore, right? It's like you said earlier, you feel like it's not really work what you're doing now. If you were to do it for a big studio, you think it would be, now it's work, so it's not as fun anymore.
If Jason Blum ever wants to call me and say, "Hey, direct Blumhouse picture," like, I'm there.
if you were to get that call though, say for a reboot or anything, what would it be? If you could just choose, say the rights were out the window and you could just choose, you know what, this is my guy, I'm going with this.
Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. Honestly, like, I think I would ever avoid any sort of reboot or franchise because there's just too many fans that love that shit, and like, I never ever want to put myself in a situation where people hate me because I did whatever to the film. You look at any Marvel director, Star Wars director, Scream, Texas Chainsaw, any horror franchise, dude, like, they get ripped to shreds by the fanboys because they just, you fucked up the characters, you did this, you that, you made it modern, you did this. It's like, what do you want from me? Like, most of the time they're good. I understand some criticism, absolutely. I've got definitely some retro roots in me and character wise, but I think I would always want to avoid a franchise because unless like, no, I don't know. I think I want to avoid a franchise. I would want to keep it. I would like want to do an original story, whether it was my own or somebody else's. I'd be more than happy to direct someone else's like story if they believed in me just as much as I believed in the story. I mean, it would take. Don't get me wrong. There's a high interest in doing like an original or like a new take on like something like Scream or like a Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that. I would love to be able to fantasize about that, but the actual act of trying to do that, probably not.
Because look at the poor bastards that had to reboot Elm Street. It's not that everything was terrible with it, but they just got crucified.
It's been like 12 years. They're still talking shit about it. Like, I feel bad about the new Texas Chainsaw because I didn't love it. It was fine, it was like I didn't like hate it, but I didn't love it. But like people are just like, dude, just ripping it to shreds. And I'm like, man, like at least they went for it. I'm happy to see Leatherface, like it's been a while.
See, I found it actually fun, and I didn't think I would because I'm a purist when it comes to Leatherface. Every year at Halloween I have an expensive Tommy mask that I wear, and I scare the shit out of the little children. I chase them with a real chainsaw and things of this nature. So, I'm 6'4", 3 bills, so I fit the part. So I didn't think I would enjoy that as well as I actually did but I went into it like with low expectations, and I said, it is what it is. And the liberties they took, I was like, but it was an enjoyable little, film.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it was fun. Like there was a lot of parts that were fun, and I didn't hate it at all. I just it wasn't like a film that I'm like, man, I can't wait to rewatch this new Texas Chainsaw. No, probably not. But there's a lot of films like that, and I think that's okay. Like the what was it, Malignant that came out recently. See, the thing is, I actually really liked it. And I thought, yeah, because I thought it was just a lot of fun. I just thought, like, as campy as it was, I was like, dude, this is the most punk rock thing ever. Like in 2022 or 21, whatever it was. I was like, this is awesome. I'm like, I like this chick is batshit crazy. Like I had a lot of fun watching it, and so for me, having fun with that, but then hearing a lot of people are like, oh my God, that movie was awful. It's like, oh, you're just never going to win with horror.
Yeah, it is a very divided fan base, especially on that. I remember being stoked for this movie. I was like excited. And then me and my fiance, we were sitting here like the day it drops, like, we're watching this. I got my mixed drinks. I'm ready. We got it turned on. And the first time I seen those little hands and everything, and I was like, what the actual fuck did I just see? I mean, I felt like I was watching a Basket Case in 1983 or something. It was, oh man, it was. But it had a lot of fans, and I mean, I've heard rumors of a part two.
See, it's just so weird how people perceive horror and movies and everything, but when it comes to franchises especially, I know there's like that, just you gotta be on one side or the other. It's like I just want to avoid that. I'd rather take the.
But isn't that the fun part of horror sometimes, how divided the fans are?
Yeah, for sure, and that what I love about the horror community too is no one hates each other for having those thoughts. They just it's just fun to conversate about them,
Yeah, we'll shit all over each other, but we'll watch the movie together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It can be a shitty, horror movie on, but we're all watching together, and we'll have our conversations about it, and it's just a good community to be a part of, So, but yeah, I mean, as far as big studios, I don't know. It's like I think because I do read a lot of horror stories where it's like they got indie directors who came in and made a big film for a studio, and it was absolute hell, just they weren't used to that kind of work or the people or the demands, all their all the stuff they want, the creative control behind it, was just completely shot. I think Gareth Edwards is an example of that, and some other directors I know, I just know that's a story. So I think it would have to be a studio that would allow me to bring my own creative vision and somewhat flexibility of freedom, creative freedom in it, and trust me entirely to do it. You know, I think if a studio called me and was like, "Hey, we're going to give you, we trust what you're doing, but we want to make sure you're going in the right direction," I would absolutely be like, "Yeah, I'm trusting you to help me get to that, like for sure." But I think like if you're taking the integrity out of the creative director, in the first place, then why hire them? It's like that. So I would want to avoid probably all those major studios that are doing those major Hollywood films. Like I would love to do like a indie studio like that's actually got like a budget and producers and stuff like that's doing their thing, but they really believe in the directors they hire and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of where I always wanted to be, though. I never really wanted to be like Mr. Hollywood. Like I don't really find that fascinating. I think it's cool to fantasize about, like everyone does, but like I think if I was able to make movies and make some money off of it and tell stories and really create fan bases and stuff like that, like that's where I want to be. I would love that opportunity to be on that higher ground doing those kinds of things, but I don't want to ever do it in that pretentious way, as well as losing my own like creative touch, integrity, and also feeling like it is like a awful job versus having fun with doing it, So
Yeah, because I feel like if someone comes in there and tells you, "Okay, we want you to make this movie, and we really love your main character, but instead of being A, we would like him to be C,
yeah, and change
and you make this work."
like change everything about him and then direct him. It's like what? Like I think James Gunn is a good example, dude. Like they let James Gunn do just about anything he wants to do with whatever, and he's with both Marvel and DC, but he's done so many indie projects before that. Like they really trust him with his not only direction but like his character writing and his dialogue and everything like that. That comedic and serious, fun tone that he always delivers on any of his projects. Like they do a really great job just letting him like be himself within his movies. You can always, if you watch a James Gunn movie, you can see like that same kind of tone in it. And I just think like if studios let directors do that, then I'm all for it. Like I'm totally down for it. If they trust you in that direction, I mean, if you're not like, I don't want to be an amateur filmmaker and go into a studio that they're like, "Hey, we've got $1 million project here." If I read the script and I'm like, "Dude, I'm not qualified for this. I don't want to do this." Like I don't want to do that. Be in that position. Like, no, you're going to do this. Like, I'm good. It's fine. Like, I'll go produce my $0 budget film over here. But if they're like, "Hey, we got $1 million. We really, really like what you do. It might be a little bit more outside your bounds, but we'll work with you and help you out and make sure that we can guide you in that direction. But at the same time, put your touch on it." Fuck yeah, let's go. Like, I'm excited, man. Like that inspires me. But yeah, we'll see. Probably never, but who knows?
Oh, never say never.
Never say never.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Wind it down a
know.
little bit. I see the old beer bottle in your hand there. So, are you a beer or a whiskey man?
Dude, beer. I can't drink whiskey. Ugh. I've tried, man. I've tried. It's like the older I get, I'm like, man, maybe this is the year I can drink whiskey. No, dude, I just can't do it. I like rum, but no, I stick with the casual beer. I don't drink whiskey. It just knocks me back. I can drink like Crown Royal a little bit, but again, that's like I gotta have like a little bit of dash of Sprite in it or something like to make it go down. Yeah.
Hey,
You can always make
still
a
more than I
hassle and
get
get
into.
you. You can always make a hassle and get you some Crown Black and some Diet Dew.
There you go.
It'll level you off.
There you go.
Yeah. A full strength Mountain Dew is about as strong as mine's going to get.
Oh, there you go.
But I know we've tied you up for an hour here, and you have a family and everything too. So we didn't want to take too much of your time. But I did want to say, hey, while we're here, can you share with us any new upcoming projects you've got coming out and that you want to promote, or that you want to make sure we're on the lookout for?
So like I said, first of all, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been awesome. I really thankful for that and taking the time. But the other, I don't really have anything particularly new to promote at the moment, just because it's been kind of crazy year. We just moved into a new house and everything. So as far as recently new is Raven, our newest film, Raven. So we've got that out. It's on YouTube. It's been doing pretty well as far as a film festival circuit goes. It's been out in LA. It's been in Philly, and we had like a sold out theater in Philly. It was just in Atlanta, Days of the Dead. It's going to be playing in New Jersey this weekend, that's like April 10th. I'm not sure when this will come out, but it's like this upcoming weekend of April.
Yeah, we'll have it out by Wednesday or Thursday at the latest of this week. So
this upcoming weekend of 2022, it's going to be New Jersey, where we're nominated for like 5 different awards, which is fucking awesome. I'm like,
It is.
about that. I didn't expect that at all, but we're like nominated for like best director, cinematography, editing, actor, and short film. So really, really excited. Hoping we pull a few awards. That'd be amazing. We got reviewed by like Film Threat online. That was a really, really good review. So it's just doing well, you know, and I'm happy about that and whatnot. But my wheels are turning. They've been turning for a while. So like I said, I'm kind of in my unfinished basement right now. But within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be having this kind of set up as my recording studio and Strange Films like little office. So I'm going to be. You can probably look out for a few different things this coming year in the next few months, which will be, I'm launching a couple different podcasts, film-related podcasts and music-related podcasts, and we'll have our 3rd comic book out, hopefully by towards the end of summer, maybe beginning of fall. We'll have our 3rd comic out, and then I guarantee we'll have at least a couple different films out, just depending on when and where, but we will have some sort of films out, and hopefully if once I kind of, like I said, get my bearings together here, like it's kind of like I know I'm going to be hitting the ground running. So I know in Knoxville I'm going to be producing a couple different things. I've already got some people lined up for, and then in Philly my dad has been working on some things. We're trying to finish Center City 2 up right now, so we might be doing that this year, and then he's got another original like a horror or thriller film that we've been wanting to do. So yeah, I'd say at least couple different films at least, the comic and some podcasts, and who knows, man, you know, like I said, if I think of something and I know I can do it, I just do it, you know. So just keep up with Strange Films on Facebook or strangefilmstudios.com or on our YouTube page, Instagram, any of those. You can kind of see the updates, and we'll just go from there, man.
And thank you for plugging those, because I am terrible at the end of the show about asking about those, because I usually start off with them because I know I'll forget them by the end.
No problem.
But and hopefully you can come back on with us again before you have anything new coming out, or if you got something you just want to announce, we'd be glad to have you come back again, obviously. I mean, this was a very fun interview.
Anytime, man. If you guys ever just need a filler, let me know. I'm just happy to chat in general. So
next time maybe we'll get you to talk about that comic book a little bit.
Yeah, dude, I can bring them. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Anytime you guys want to talk, I'm definitely down. And if I have something concrete kind of coming out or lined up, I'll give you a heads up. And if you want to plug it, dude,
Absolutely.
I'm always happy to just talk. And anytime I can help you guys out too, I'm happy to do so. So yeah. So I appreciate it again. Thank you very much.
Oh, we appreciate it. And thank you for coming on with us. And again, we definitely want to have you back again, because this is very fun for us. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that interview. It was very fun for us to do. Very personable gentleman. Great energy. We had a lot of fun talking to him. We're going to try and have him back on again pretty soon when we can work that out again. But hopefully you enjoyed that. And with that, Hassel, let's jump into Nerd Out, which is section where we ask each other questions and get random on the spot answers. For anybody who hasn't been here before, feel free to provide your answer in the comments to the section below, or if you want to expand on anything we said, feel free to do that there. But with that, I think the last couple of times you've gone first, it's really hard for us to remember because I barely remember yesterday, but I've got one for you that comes straight off of what we were talking to August about. So I will shoot first if you're good with that.
Go right ahead, bro.
All right. Well, talking to him, and we asked him a bunch of questions about working behind the scenes, because he does a lot of this on his own, right? So he's got the entire creative process. For you, which part of doing an independent film would be the worst part of the creative process for you? Which one would you loathe to have to do?
Honestly, knowing my narcissistic self, I'm good with a little constructive criticism. I could not handle the micromanaging or controlling of not being fully in control like what he is, like where he's, director, writer, everything, editor, so forth and so on. I couldn't handle just, knowing I was director and having a producer in my ear the whole time, you need to do this, or knowing that maybe some editor is going to come behind me and chop half of my movie. That to me would be murder. Okay, and that's why we get these director cuts later, I suppose. These directors like really just, well, look at the original Suicide Squad. The director has been on set, many times and that's not my movie. That's not my movie. That's not what that's what they cut and put before you. To me, that would probably be it.
I can understand that. Yeah. For me, I probably struggle more with I think if we're looking at the entire creative process like he talked about, probably for me would probably be the writing, just because I hate doing dialogue and stuff, figuring out what would somebody say. I have a hard enough time figuring out what I'm going to say half the time to figure out what somebody else is going to say. But the directing and storyboarding and stuff like that, I would probably enjoy that. Editing can get a little, if you guys sit there and watch back everything and pick just the one you want to do, that might get a little tiresome. But I think I'd enjoy that still more than I would probably writing it.
Well, see, I love doing stuff like that, especially like I spend more time on WWE 2K22 creating than I do playing. And the people in my house, they loathe it because they'll hear that do so many times. I spend more time creating tires or scenarios or this, that, and the other. So that part would be fun to me. But like I was just saying, I got to take some criticism from you or someone I know trust. And I was like, hey, still doing this. Why don't you do this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got to take that input. So yeah, everybody's their own.
Yeah. Well, what have you got this week for Nerd Out question?
Well, I'm gonna build off what we were talking with him about as well. We're gonna capitalize on our guest this week. Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. We're gonna use you as our, catapult for this. If you had two options, you got the red pill or the blue pill. The blue pill, you make an independent film of your 100% your idea, your writer, director, editor, so forth, so on. Or you have a big budget movie backed by a major company, and if you want it to be a continuation of a movie or a reboot, so forth, so on, which do you choose and what is it?
I'm gonna probably go with the reboot or building off of a franchise and pick a franchise from our childhood. I don't know which one I'd go with necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of choices there, whether you do Mask or Thundercats or Silverhawks or something like that I'd like to bring forth. But I do feel what he was saying about, when you do reboots or you do franchise films, it's going to go one of two ways. And not everybody's going to pick the same way, but is it going to be the more successful one, or is it going to be the one that everybody hates completely? Now, if it's a 70-30 split and 70% like it and 30% hate it, you can live with that sometimes, but you can be real divisive.
But that 30%, there's some hateful son of a bitches though, right?
Yes, they are. And they will make, for every one positive comment, you're going to get 6 to 7 negative ones, right? So, and because the same person who said something bad will say it multiple times in multiple places. Person who said it good, person who said it good would be like, okay, hey, it was good. Everybody who dissed on it's going to say, I hated it, and they're going to say it everywhere they can find to post it. So, I don't know, but for me, I'd probably rather do that just because there's so many that I'd like to do from our childhood, right? That's probably what I'd end up picking.
Well, it's property though.
That's where I struggle. I don't know which one I want to do. The couple that if it wasn't a movie, if it was a TV show or an anime show or something, the one I'd want to redo just because I feel like it gets left out and no love a lot of times is Dinosaurs.
Oh man, please hit that song for one more time, Monster.
No, not today.
You got to.
Allergies are killing me, man.
Saucers. Come on. There we go. There we go.
But yeah, if I was doing a movie or something though, I'd probably lean towards Thundercats or Silverhawks.
Ooh. Okay.
But I think Dinosaurs doesn't lean itself to a movie unless you're doing an animated feature length film. But I still think it's better as a show. Yeah. There's also Cops out there too. That would be a good one to try and redo.
It's always good to fight crime in a future time.
Da, 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 da. I actually went to bed watching that the other night.
I went to bed watching Mask the other night, and it was far worse than I remembered.
Oh, don't you talk bad about the Masked Crusaders.
Tracker was pretty tough, I'm going to be honest.
They're working overtime to fight crime. You leave them alone. What about you? What would you, which pill would you take?
As much as I'd love to see some of my ideas hit the stage, I think I'd probably have to go with the, not a reboot, but I would love to take an old property and kick it back off into the next gear. And I'm going to steal from you. It would be Silverhawks, just because, as much as I would love to see live action Thundercats, I just think that would be a nightmare to produce, to make realistic. However, metal cyborgs, you can work that. That's very special. Metal cyborgs in space. Well, we got Jason in space, so I can deal with metal cyborg birds in space.
Well, look what you've got to pull from now, too. Iron Man, Power Rangers, all these other movies that have had somebody in. I mean, the Power Ranger, this last iteration of Power Ranger 2017 looked like they were shooting for a cross between Iron Man and Silverhawk's armor anyway. Just show a little more skin, get rid of the face, the mask.
Okay, there you go. I could deal with it. I feel like the fur will be very difficult to get past on Thundercats. Plus, I would love to see a Monstar on the big screen. That could be really scary if done properly. That's where my horror roots would kick in, and I would make him very menacing when he's not in his armored form.
That's fair. Yeah, he would look menacing on screen, and it's easier to do the metal than the fur, obviously. But I don't know. I don't think Thundercats would be quite as hard on that end. I think you get more. I think you get more studio input on that because it is still owned by a big studio. Like I think WB still owns all that. So
who voices your line though? That's my most important thing right there.
Ooh, if it's who voices him or who plays him?
Who voices him? You can have anybody play him. Some ham and egger can play him.
And I don't know.
It's going to be mostly CG anyways. That voice is what, because it's the same thing as Optimus Prime and Transformers. You get anyone other than Peter Cullen, you don't give a shit how great the effects are. That's not my Optimus. So who voices your Lino?
I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know who I do. Off the top of my head, I don't know who I could pick for that. I can tell you who I'd pick for Jaga. Jaga would be Morgan Freeman.
Ooh, that's gold right there, baby.
Yeah, I don't know who would do Lino, but Jaga's easy.
God almighty, that's great. You got me pumped now. I want to go see your damn Thundercats movie, G.
I still got to figure out who'd be Lino. Most of them wouldn't be too bad.
How the hell Lino? We got Jaga and Morgan Freeman. We're good.
Tell me he would not fit that, though.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. If Michael Clark Duncan was not passed away, God rest him, he would have to be my Panther.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one for him. The dude who does a lot of the voicing for Transformer cartoon stuff now does like Bulkhead a lot. Kevin Richardson, I think is his name. He would be a good replacement for Panther there. Since you don't have Michael Clark Duncan.
That actually would be pretty good. Either him or Clancy Brown.
Oh, that would be good.
The Kurgan has the best voice ever. I mean, which I can see him pulling off a really good Mama Ra too.
Yeah. Who would you pick for Monstar?
Ooh. Well, didn't him and Mama Ra have the same voice? Yeah, I'm going with the Kurgan for my Monstar.
I like him. Also, I like what's his name? Michael Ironside.
Dude, is he still alive? Is he? He hasn't done no work in the last since what? Starship Troopers.
Oh, he's done a lot of stuff, man. He's done a lot of
Since
voices
Starship
too.
Troopers, really?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. While we're talking about it, I know we're taking a quick aside here, but yeah, he's man, what was he in? Jeez, trying to find his filmography now while we're talking.
Keith David would be really great too.
Is that the dude who was Goliath?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh yeah, this dude's been in a ton of stuff. He was.
I
he
would
was,
actually. He would be a really great Monstar.
yeah, he was actually Darkseid in a few DC movies.
Well, you know what? I do remember him on the Justice League cartoon.
Yeah,
that episode where Superman finally cuts loose and they battle. I think maybe the last episode.
yeah. He's been in stuff as recently as this year, so yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't realize he was still kicking. God bless you.
Yeah.
Way to go, Highlander 2 there, baby.
But with that, I think we're getting close to time, so we'll start closing out the show here. But as we close out, we want to make sure we give us some shout outs here. The first one being to our friend Daniel Garcia. Remind everybody his Kickstarter for Xyber Ronin is live now. Go fund that. It's currently at 78% funded with 27 days left to go at the time that we're recording this. You can find the links and more information on that on his Facebook page and on his Instagram, which is Facebook is at Daniel Garcia, Instagram at D Garcia Comics.
And we've shared a few on our social medias as well. And he did tell me as recently as just before we recorded tonight, he has a major tier that is still yet to open. So keep your eyes peeled. Back this project. There's some really cool stuff. I've talked to him personally about a surprise that I can't say yet for issue 2. So there's plans for long term. So this is something you want to back because it is a long term project.
Yeah, and don't forget to come out and join us for the live event at Zone Collectibles on April 23rd. He will be there signing some prints. He's got a few special edition black and white issues there that he'll be signing as well. So come on out.
How much it costs, Monster?
It's absolutely free.
Free. Not free-ish.
Free.
At 12 noon to 2 o'clock. And afterwards, we'll do a live show.
Yeah, so come out and visit us for that. Also, don't forget to check out Strange Film Studios. And from our guest this week, Mr. August Aguilar, he's got several films. His latest one being Raven. You can find that on YouTube, and he talks about several other projects you can find and where to find them at. So don't forget to check them out. And while we're on the subject of checking everything out, make sure you, not only on April 23rd, but as soon as you can, anytime you can, go check out our friends and our sponsors at The Zone Collectibles for all your nerdy needs. They can help you find whatever you're looking for in the realm of nerddom. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com or on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles. And their store is located in Tifton, Georgia. Help support their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And now I think it's time for us to reveal another giveaway prize winner.
Yes, exactly. And before I do, I'm going to give a shout out to my baby girl who's having her 22nd birthday today. Hassel's little baby girl is getting grown as fuck. Hope Hutchinson, Daddy loves you. Happy birthday, baby. Going into that, courtesy of our sponsors, the Zone Collectibles of Tifton, Georgia. We have some really cool stuff this week. This week I have an original piece of art by Foxfoot Craft, the lady that done our logo. She's done a ton of logos for various other odds and ends. And then we also have a proof with Frankenweenie on it. I felt like it felt the two together. I felt like it felt though. And like I said, these are thankfully very courteous of our sponsor. And the winner this week, she showed us a lot of love on YouTube and through Instagram. And let me get the name. Live Creepy. So we'll reach out to you. You reach out to us. That's the thing. Make sure you get in touch with us after you win. So a few people haven't, and it's been the prosper of the next person because they get everything. So reach out to us. Well, we love the love and appreciation you guys give us on social media. You share, like, subscribe, comment. I mean, just comment alone. It does a great deal. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's all you have to do to enter these giveaways each week is make sure you like, subscribe, comment, or share on any of our social media platforms or on this YouTube posting here. And then Hassel, how about you tell them where they can find us at on all those platforms?
We're everywhere. We're on YouTube at the Nerdy Man Room Show. We're on Instagram at the Nerdy Man Room Show. We're on Twitter at Nerdy MR Show. And if you go to the face page, you can find us on Hassel Hutchison / the Nerdy Man Room Show.
And remember, if you enjoyed this video or any of our other content, please give us that like, subscribe, comment, or share. Join us here next time. We're going to talk about the heroes in the half shell. Until then, live nerdy and quote the Raven.
Evermore.